Welcome to Hey Soul Sista, the podcast for women ready to embrace greater joy, freedom, and a soulful life. This is your space for deep conversations, meaningful stories, and inspiring guidance to nourish your body, mind, and spirit. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, follow, like, and share. Hey, we got Denise Duffield-Thomas, one of my favourite people.
Hi.
Hey Soul Sista.
Thanks for having me again.
Again, it's been a few years.
Yes, but in your own studio now.
I know. Hey Soul Sista 2.0. And I guess my intention for Hey Soul Sista 2.0 is to go a bit deeper and to connect more with women who are at that point in their lives who are probably in midlife and of maybe reflecting on where they've been and how they want to live out midlife and potentially the rest of their life. I know I certainly have been going through that, just the reassessment.
Absolutely. Well, I just got back from my mastermind last week on the Gold Coast. So there was 10 of us there. I would say most of us are in mid-40s and one who's over 50. And we were all going through that exact thing. Some of us have kids, some of us don't. But it is that reimagining, questioning things. Some things are falling apart and that can be painful. But it was really great to have my friend Victoria Gibson there, who she's only a couple of years older than
I remember
us,
Victoria,
Yeah, she's lovely. But, so she's 51. And I think it was really great for us. She was just like, oh, it just gets better, guys.
Yeah.
You know, because we realized that so many of us are watching social media of younger entrepreneurs who have got fresh batteries and feeling like, oh, maybe our time is done, and realizing that we have to make sure that we are following older women than us so we can see, oh, wow, we've still got so much to look forward to, and to have older role models as well. So then you feel like you're always in the right place in your life.
And it's interesting because I certainly see in other women, and I feel in myself, that soulful shift, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But so I was thinking about it. I must have known you for, about 13 or 14 years now when I first met you at the Newcastle Jockey Club at a race day. And back then you were, I think you had launched Lucky Bitch.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
You'd written your book and you had started your business and you were doing a lot of travel to the States and connecting with other like-minded entrepreneurial women and coaches and doing masterminds and things. For those of you who may not know you or know your story, do you just want to give a bit of a quick recap on the story of how you started and grew this amazing multi-million-dollar business? And you're self-made. I love that about you. You're a self-made millionaire.
Yes, that feels good. Yeah, that feels good to say. So, oh God, I think if you look back to how I was as a kid, I was always very enthusiastic about sharing information, tips, whatever. And so I would learn something and immediately want other people to know about it. So I would watch Oprah after school, and then I'd be like, oh my God, Oprah said we should do gratitude journals. So I was kind of like that a lot. I remember my cousin, like, I won't say his name, but he was a bedwetter. And I remember seeing this thing on Oprah about bedwetting. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to sit and do like visualizations with you and stuff like that. So I was just like that as a kid. And so I feel like there wasn't any point, I guess, in my entrepreneurial life that I just suddenly became someone who wanted to be a coach. It was always in me. It's just I didn't know that that was a job.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any other entrepreneurial women until my late 20s. And I was living in London. All of my friends were either my friends from back home who we grew up in housing commission. So some of them were teachers, there were mums. And then my new friends that I'd kind of met were all in consulting. And I didn't know anybody who was an entrepreneur.
And you'd been working for a corporate, hadn't you?
Yeah. I spent my 20s going in and out of corporate life. So I worked for PwC for a while, in and out. I worked for a sustainability consultancy. But I would always get itchy and I would quit to do some grand thing. And I didn't have kids, so I
So you
I'd have no plan. Yeah, I'd have
Yeah.
no plan. And I'd be like, I'm going to start my own business, but not really knowing what it would be. So then I would, for the next 6 months, I would do random jobs and then I'd go back into a full-time job for a while. And I worked in the charity sector for a while. But I think the thing that really changed for me was that I found a community of entrepreneurs. And as you know, when you have community around you, it becomes like a bit of a monkey see, monkey do kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I found Ali Brown, who is, a pioneer, I think, of the online business space for women. And I went to one of her conferences and it blew my mind. I was 29. I don't know how old she was, but she'd said that she was a millionaire by the time she was 35.
Wow.
And I sat there and I was like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I had zero plan of how to do it. I didn't know anything. So I would go to these conferences and it'd be all men in like khaki pants and pages on their belts. And I was always the youngest. I was always the only woman in the room. And so a friend told me about Ali Brown, who was one of the first online female entrepreneurs, and she was teaching, how to create a business. Yeah. And I remember I bought her course, and back then it would be shipped to you with DVDs and like all the handouts in like a big folder. And I think it was something like $1,200 or something. And I remember Mark sort of saying to me, how much was this? And I went, I will never tell you. But I sat and I watched every single one of those DVDs over and over again. And then I went to her event I think it was in Vegas in 2009. So I was like 29. And she said, I was a millionaire at 35. And I just went, I'm going to do it no matter what. And it was really interesting. I didn't really have a business. I was writing a few blogs, because blogging was so new. And so
blogging was a real thing.
Yeah, it really was, but it was still very new. So I'd written an ebook, a couple of ebooks actually. So one of them was Internet Dating Tips for Men. And then I'd written one about planning a wedding and all just things that I was doing and trying to just teach people again, because I was like, I don't know what a business is. And I actually met Anne McKevitt at that event.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we were just talking before about Anne McKevitt, who is a billionaire. And she was Britain's like kind of lifestyle Martha Stewart kind of person in the 90s. And so she was mentoring Ali Brown and she was at that event. And so in the break, everyone was kind of crowding around her, and she's very, she's Scottish, she's no nonsense. And I was kind of on the periphery, and she turned to me and she goes, what's your business? And I was like, oh, I've got a blog, and I'm blogging about wedding. And she was like, that's not a business. And I went, oh my God. And just in that moment, I was like, she's right. That is not a business.
Yeah.
And I have kept in touch with her over the last couple of years. And I've told her that. I said, just you saying that was such a wake up call for me of going, if you want to have a business, you've got to get off your butt basically and do it. So I think being at that event was a really pivotal moment for me, because not only did I see someone talk about making money and having a business, but I was then in this community of women. And so I started going to more conferences and learning more about business. But it was the monkey see, monkey do thing, right? And I did make $1 million at 35.
Whoa, that's amazing.
It was 2 weeks before my 36th birthday.
Yeah.
But it gave me that North Star, and I think that's so important for women. We learn from each other and we share so generously with each other. And you need to see someone do it, like breaking the 4-minute mile thing.
Yeah. That's so cool. And so now, years later, your business, it's amazing. You're now an international Hay House author. You own multiple businesses.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And you make millions every year.
Yes. So overall in my business, we've made over 30 million. And 2 years ago was probably our peak at 5 million. And because I've been having this sabbatical, we make about 2 million a year now. But to be honest, I'm not really driven by that anymore. I think it would be very easy for me to make $1 million a year without thinking too much. But the amount is not that important to me. And I think the first couple of years, I pretty much doubled every year. And then when we hit that 5 million mark, I was like, well, I guess we're like, let's do 10 million next year. And it was a real turning point of going, hang on, why do I want that? And I actually didn't have a deep enough desire to do it. And so I think the last 2 years I've been more bringing richness in my life in other ways, because I don't feel like I've got anything to prove on that front. And I'm not one of those people who is just endlessly driven to achieve. And I feel like I've hit a lot of those goals. I don't need to prove it to anyone else, but I don't feel the hunger for it either.
Yeah. So did that come about from your sabbatical year, or was that shift happening before you took your sabbatical year?
It was happening before. So as you know, I lived literally next door from you.
She really did.
Yes. And like literally when Mel moved into her new house, she was like, I can see into your bedroom, which is really cool. So for me, building that house was a dream for a couple of years. So I used to walk around this neighborhood and go, one day I'm going to live here. And I think that really drove the first couple of years of my business, of just going, I want the beach house. I want the beach house. I want the beach house. And then when we moved in, like it actually was it was an interesting experience even building it, because I felt like it was such a big dream and I had to really like grow my business to be able to buy and then build a house, like a multi-million-dollar house. And I remember I didn't even use my office for the first couple of months because I felt like, oh, who am I to sit in this office? People are going to look up and see, which, you know, it was a very visible house. They're going to be able to look up and see and think, oh, who's that, you know,
like
bitch?
A bitch.
Yeah, who's that bitch looking down at them? And also people could see right into the house. And I remember saying just before we moved in, I saw another house in Hillcrest, and it was like a very hidden. And I remember saying to my, oh no, let's not move into the new house. And it was almost finished. And he was like, what do you mean? We've been working for this for years. And I was like, no, I don't like it anymore. But I think it was just a real identity shift and getting what you want. And also a lot of the stuff of me growing up of not having a lot of money, I still felt like I had some stuff around that. Like we had underfloor heating in the bathroom. And I remember thinking, I can't use that. What if I get used to it and I'll never be able to just like be a normal person? Like what if I have to go back to, you know, waitressing or cleaning houses or something like that, and I can't cope with having a cold floor?
That's so interesting, isn't it? And it's interesting because as a money life mindset person, I love that you're really honest, going, well, that's something that you were experiencing.
Absolutely. And I mean, I love experiencing these things. I love learning about any people's money stuff, but money doesn't make that stuff go away. And even just having the itchy feet, that is something that I've always had, rich or poor. So even when we moved in, I remember seeing that yellow house in the corner and going, well, that one's closer to the beach. Like, why don't we buy that and renovate that? And it was almost like loving the creation and the mess of something, but having it, I don't know, it just was like, oh, now I just have it. Like, that's not that great. So actually what a big change for me was we only moved in there, I think, at the start of 2019, just before COVID. Yep. So we didn't have a housewarming party or anything because we went straight into that COVID year. And the same time, I think perimenopause and undiagnosed ADHD absolutely hit me. And I felt like I had dementia. I felt like I was going crazy.
Wow.
But I thought it was just like, oh, it's because we're all stuck at home with kids. I love traveling. I love, you know, going to conferences and stuff like that. And I felt like I didn't have any of my coping mechanisms. I was just stuck.
Like at home during the COVIDs.
Exactly, right? Like everyone else. But it actually was like it was a perimenopause thing as well. And a lot of people seem to be getting diagnosed with ADHD at the same time as perimenopause because you just don't have those coping mechanisms. But I had to work through all of that. And I felt like I was like literally having a mental breakdown. And when I talk about that now, a few of my friends are like, we didn't know. And I was like, I couldn't leave the house. Even when we could, I couldn't wash my hair. I was just like sat on the couch, just like catatonic for a year probably. And so I think that was a big wake up call because I thought, wow, I have to keep on going, but I actually don't feel like I want to do that. But I'm forced to now because now I have a big house and I'm supporting a lot of people. And it was that lack of choice that was really, really tricky. And so I think a few other things happened. And then after I got diagnosed and I was great, I was like working. I had so much fun that year that I got diagnosed with ADHD because I had meds for the first time. I was taking HRT for menopause. I was feeling on fire. So I said yes to everything.
Yeah.
And all of the things that had been pushed because of COVID all happened in 1 year. So I was like, just ignored my family for a year and basically worked like a little hamster on my computer, happy as anything. But it wasn't good for anyone else, basically. And so then Mark had his big breakdown. And as soon as that happened, I just went, oh, well, you know what? Let's simplify. Like all the things that are causing us stress, let's simplify them. And let's sell our house because I don't love being so public. And it's a very, this area is like it's very busy, wind, water. I think that works for your personality because you're a very like extroverted person. For me, it felt exposing.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So it's been like literally a 2-year process of unwinding work commitments, unwinding businesses and property. And bigger than that though, it started to show up all the places in my life that were unprofitable in every way.
Yeah. So so you're talking about not necessarily money, or you're talking about money?
Everything. So I made a New Year's resolution. I was like, I don't know what my goals are, but I'm going to have an affirmation for the year, and it's going to be all my projects are profitable. And so what happens then when you set that intention, all the things that are not that become very, very evident. So for me, that was family relationships or financial ties with friends, with businesses, places that were unprofitable emotionally, financially, logistically, energetically, everything. It showed up all those things.
I love that. Do you know what? I love the simplify.
It's hard to do though.
It is because, but it's almost like our brains get wired, especially when you're busy. They're busy, and you have to fill your day. And I'm probably talking about myself here now.
Yeah.
I've got to fill my day. I've got to do this, all these things. And I've got some spare time there. Oh, okay. That means, yes, I can do that. And then all of a sudden life is a whirlwind again.
Oh, it's so easy. And I think that was always my personality because I felt like I was really trying to overcome so much stuff from my childhood. So I was hungry, but I was also felt like I was being chased by, all of that dysfunction and poverty. And then I think I got to a point where I'm like, I actually don't need to run anymore, but my body doesn't know that yet.
Yeah.
So I'm still like, I've got to hustle. And I'm like, I really don't. So what was the game changer though is that we decided to go overseas for 4 months. And Mark is English and our youngest was about to start school. So we thought, you know what, this is the perfect time to do it. And I'm not one of those mamas that go, oh, let's go traveling with our kids. No, I hate it. There's such hard work. But I was like, oh, Willow's in, I think, year 3, Georgia's in year 1. They're not super crazy important years. And
they can afford the time off.
It was only one term as well. It was like term 4. So that was a real game changer for us because we were based in Cheshire in England, which, I mean, you can get anywhere. So we were going to like Barcelona and France and, Spain and in like 2 hours. It was so good. And we went to, Legoland and Alton Towers and we were there for pretty much autumn, winter. And it was so joyful. But because the time difference is so crap between Australia and the UK, I was very far removed from a lot of things. And it was the space that I needed, I think, to get perspective on some things, which was great. So again, though, it's been a 2-year process of simplifying because other people are involved in some things, like, as I said, family stuff. We had to sell some things like property and stuff. And that takes time. So I feel like I'm still in it, but not. But the thing that I did to avoid the whirlwind is I took up ballet again. So I literally do like 9 hours of ballet. So I can't put too much in because during the week I do, a class at 10:30 and 11:30 most days.
Yep.
And so I think, what did I do before? How did I fit in all that work? But I did because I didn't have anything else. And I loved my work.
So this is during your sabbatical year. So you went away, you came back and decided to take. Was it a conscious thing to go, I'm taking a sabbatical year? Or were you like, I'm just simplifying and see where this takes me?
Well, I think because I had that 4 months, so I had to prep a lot for that 4 months. And then I'd be like, I'm away. So I can't do that thing. It was a bit tricky because then I didn't want to tell people in the UK that I was there because people were like, come and speak at my conference or come and do this thing or come on my podcast. And I was like, I can't. And that was the discipline of that. And a few snuck in, and I had to do a 2-day thing with Hay House, which was super fun. But I didn't want it to be a work trip because it would have been very easy to turn it into a work trip. So when I came back, I kind of didn't tell people that I was back. And also because we were renovating a house and we were in a temporary house, I was just sort of saying to people, well, I don't have an office, even though I'd sort of set one up in the garage. And it just felt like a really good excuse, like when you're on maternity leave and people just are kind of like, oh, you're unavailable. And I just thought it would be another couple of months, and then it turned into almost like another year and a half. I still had to do, still did my boot camp calls and stuff like that, but it was just a really good excuse to not take on anything else. I also did not feel like traveling, and I'm glad that I didn't, because you have to commit to speaking gigs and stuff so far in advance. I'm like, I would not want to be traveling to America at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because I had a contract to speak at someone's conference. And so I really felt that the last 2 years, I was just like, I don't want to go anywhere. And also any time that then I'm like, oh, I would have been at that conference in New York. It's like when all the planes got shut down or just like all these things. And I've just gone, thank God I listened to my instincts. But I think I needed it for my family as well. Like I'm not a very maternal person, and I think I've really resisted being in my mum era because I did so much work when I was pregnant. Like I don't know, I felt like I was almost a social butterfly when I was pregnant, and I got so much work done. And so it's only now that I'm like, oh, wow, they do need me more. So I'm kind of just embracing that like mum era.
So having this experience, recognizing that you wanted to simplify, having a sabbatical, you're finding something joyful that you love to do, the ballet and moving into the ballet world again. It's role modeling to other people that you can do that. You can just do things for the pure joy of it, not because it's making you money or because it's a job or anything else. You just do it for the money. Not for the money. You do it for the joy.
Yes, absolutely. So I loved dance as a kid. And like my dance teacher pretty much raised me, right? And that's all I wanted to do as a kid is just dance. And I did tap, jazz and ballet. And so I kind of felt like that part of my life was over. And, I'd take my girls to their classes and volunteered backstage and stuff like that. But I'd always feel really sad that I couldn't then do it. And so I found an adult studio, which is EV Dance Studios in Newcastle, and it's purely adults. And we do performances, and we've just done our first to Stedford. And so it feels like, again, something that it does light me up, but it's also nice going and not being responsible for anybody. It's not my business. I'm not a teacher. And it's like, this is just for me. But it's nice being with adults who are also older than me in that. So we've got a couple of women who are in their late 60s in our performance group, on point as well. And it's just like, I've got this for decades to come. This is so great. The only downside is that my body, I'm like, I've got a knee injury at the moment. I've always got some injury, and that's the life of all of us adults.
Absolutely.
It's really frustrating because I'm like, I'm doing 9 hours at the moment. I would do double that, but my body just can't handle it right now. Sad.
So would you say then that your views on success and ambition has shifted because of that period of time that you've gone through?
No, I think what has made it really clear to me is that there's seasonality to things, because I feel like I still have creativity. I think I'm just probably a little bit wiser about the ability I have at the moment with kids and health and all that kind of stuff to work at that pace. But I have to say, I look at women like Martha Stewart, who really did most of her business stuff in her 50s and beyond.
I love that. And I actually read that recently, and I was like, oh my goodness. I had my friend Charlotta on Hey Soul Sister a couple of years ago, and she was talking about aging, women aging and almost becoming invisible. So I go, when I see J-Lo, when I see Martha Stewart and those wonderfully successful women who are doing what they love, that gives, again, it role models to other women that age doesn't really hold you back. It's not a barrier, and that we can embrace the midlife.
Absolutely. And so I think when I get a little bit of FOMO sometimes, I just think now is not the time for me to do a lot of creative work outside of the home in a way. So I'm like, I don't want to go speak at conferences. I don't particularly want to run stuff for myself or even retreats. I did that a little bit. I'm like, I just want to be at home for a while, but knowing that I'm going to have so much more energy and bandwidth at some stage when my kids are out of home, and that's not going to stop. That's not going to stop, and some of the books that I have written already could only have been written in that time of my life. So when I look back at Lucky Bitch, I'm like, oh, she's so cute. Like, she's so naive and optimistic. And I want to go back and edit it. And then I'm like, no, it's just such a perfect, I couldn't write that book now. And the books that I've written, in the like Chill and Prosper, for example, I'm like, that was the perfect time to write it. And then the books that are coming in the future, I'm not there yet to write it.
Yeah.
And so I have to trust the process of that, of going, I can't write that yet.
Do you have an inkling of what that might look like?
Yes, I've got a couple of ideas. So my next book, I think, will be called New Money, because I think there's so many mistakes that I've made with money and that I see in people as well. And that will be probably the next book. But I have so much creativity inside me. I'd love to write a musical. I wonder if my ADHD could handle going back to uni at some point.
So I've gone back to uni. Did you know that? I've gone back to uni. Do you know what? What I have found is that if you do the work, it's not hard. Like, really. And when I think back to my first degree when I was, late teens, early 20s, I was too busy partying and living the uni life. I now know that when you do the work and the study, it's actually really not that hard at all. This semester I'm struggling because I'm not doing the work. I'm kind of, my focus is elsewhere. So I'm like, oh my God, I've got to fit that I've got to fit that lecture in, I've got to fit that assignment in. So I'm finding it more difficult, but I just know it's because I'm not giving it the time that it deserves. But what do they say? Where attention goes, energy flows.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's true though as well, is you don't have to do it in a certain time frame, right? You're doing no one's forcing you to do it. So you can choose. And I think that would be really fun. So yeah, I just think there's so much time for all of that.
Yeah.
I just don't feel the FOMO at the moment. However, I do find myself with younger entrepreneurs who are like, oh, I'm really working towards, my beach house or whatever. And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, I'm kind of trying to talk them out of it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, but if I didn't do it, I'd always be wondering what it would be like. And same with some of those big numbers that I hit, I'd always be thinking, oh, what would that feel like? And now I'm like, oh, I kind of know that. But maybe in the future I might go, oh, what would it be like to be a billionaire?
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe. I don't know.
So would you say moving forward that your values are still simplicity and authenticity?
Yes.
Yeah, that's something that will stay through with you.
Yes. I've always said my highest value is freedom. And I think every year something comes and tests that, and I have to really recalibrate and go, okay, do I have true freedom? Because I think then when I said yes to everything, I was like, oh, I've got the freedom to say yes to everything. But then it felt like, oh no, I have to do all
Why
those
did I
things.
say yes to that?
Yes. So I have to have gatekeepers. That's part of my simplicity thing, is that I find it really hard to say no. So I have to make sure that things go through my team first, because otherwise I'll be like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. And then I'm like, oh, damn it, why did I do that? So sometimes I'm better at that, but yeah.
Yeah. Would you still say that chill and prosper is your iconic mantra?
Yes, I do. And I think sometimes people would be like, oh, if I am in a busy period, I've had people go, oh, well, that doesn't look very chill. And I'm like, well, it is, because I'm choosing to do it. And yeah, I think it is. I think it will just look different in different times of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know one of the things that you have talked a lot about over the years, and you've blogged and vlogged about, is money stories and people having money stories. You're talking about that you might write a book around new money. What would you say is probably some of the more common money stories that women come to you with or talk to you about in your group sessions or your group forums?
I think this is probably the favorite part of my work, because I always just learn something new and fresh in anyone's story. So I think everyone's stories are quite unique, but often they're related to I have to work really hard to make money, and everyone's story to that is slightly different. So some people might have had working class family who had to literally work 5 jobs, or someone whose dad was a doctor. They'll still have that same work hard mentality. Another one that comes up a lot is just this idea that money is a dirty thing to talk about, or it's rude or impolite to talk about. And that can really impact women when it comes to setting their prices and invoicing and asking for money. And that's definitely one to unwind. And I think there's also this thing of like, something bad is going to happen, and whether that is people won't like me anymore, or I won't be relatable, or I'll have to pay taxes, or I'll get into trouble somehow. There's just this feeling, I think, because we've just been told money is not really fast, even at our age, right?
So what advice would you have for women who want to create something new or start something new? They're in midlife and they're like, I've always wanted to do blah, and I have never had the opportunity or the confidence or whatever that looks like.
Well, the tricky thing is nobody can force you, and nobody's waiting for you, right? The good news is nobody can stop you. And I think like the barriers to entry are so low. Anyone can start a podcast. You can do it. You can start a very successful web show with just your camera. Like the barriers to entry are minuscule now, but you still have to have the confidence to do it. And I think that's the only real barrier, is the imposter syndrome that we often get, and the confidence. But it's like, no one can stop you. It's like, no one's really watching either.
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to, I sometimes get a bit like, I don't know if this is healthy, but like almost dissociative, and think, okay, I'm just going to pretend that I'm just controlling this meat puppet called Denise. I'm just going to make her do it and just pretend that she doesn't care, because no one cares. Like no one's really watching. So I have to just be a little bit delusional sometimes and just go, oh. And what I've found is when I do that, people just believe you. Like when I first published my book, and I had so much imposter syndrome around it, and people would be like, oh, so you've got a book? And I'd go, I guess I do, if you say so. And then even now when you're like, oh, you're a Hay House author, I'm like, yeah, I guess I kind of tricked them into it, but I guess I am. And that never really goes away. And actually that's one of the best pieces of advice I got very early on in my entrepreneurial journey to Ali Brown, actually, at that conference where I was like, oh my God, she's a millionaire. I got into a lift that she was in going down to the party, and I was so nervous, and I was like, oh, Ali, can I just ask you a piece of advice? And she's like, yeah, anything. And I went, when does the fear go away? And she said, never.
It never goes away.
Never.
You feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes. And I think that was so liberating, because I was never waiting for the fear to go away. Someone very successful told me that to my face. It never, ever goes away. And so then I was like, oh, okay, well, absence of fear is not my goal. So I'm just going to literally do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How good is that?
Yeah.
New money.
Yes.
If you, without going into the full detail of the book that you're going to write next, what would be something that you've learned that you would include in that book about new money?
That your personality doesn't really change with money, for good and bad reasons. And I think that's the tricky thing, right? Is that some things are amplified and some things you overcompensate for. And I'll give you an example of this, is where I fell into. When I was a kid, we moved around a lot. And so we never put pictures on the walls, and we didn't have that stability. Sometimes we didn't have things like, bedside tables or whatever. And so when I started, I don't know, as a grown up, like I remember when Mark and I were first together, same thing. We didn't put art on the walls or anything like that. And so then I kind of got a bit too enthusiastic about stuff.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking, like, I loved council pickup day as a kid, because I'd be like, oh, what can I do with that? And what can I do with that? And so then when I had money and space to put things, so for example, when we got our farm, I was like, oh, I want to rescue all of the antique couches in Newcastle and put them in my barn.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, look at that, piece of crap furniture that no one wants. And then I was like, oh, wow, why don't I collect vintage cars that no one wants? And then it was like, oh, I'm going to renovate this property that nobody wants. And so I think it's the same personality trait. And maybe as a kid, I would do it with books or something like that. And so then it was just amplified.
Yeah.
Or I was trying to overcompensate of trying to be like, well, I never have bedside tables. Now I'm going to have 18 bedside tables. And again, I don't think that's a money thing necessarily, because people do it sometimes without money. So I just think that's an interesting thing to watch, of going, more is better, or more will make me feel good, because it doesn't, and then it became like too much. I was like, now I have to be responsible for all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Have you ever gone through a period in your life over the last, 13, 14 years since you started your business, of where you did worry about what other people would think?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, one of the things I've learned about ADHD is this thing called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD.
Wow.
And it's a real thing where you think, like you just take rejection personally, or you think you're in trouble, and it's mostly in your head. So what would happen for me after doing speaking gigs or even on podcast interviews, I would replay it in my head for hours going, did I overshare? Did I say too much? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I talk too much? Does everyone hate me? And so on my podcast days where I do my 5 in a row, I usually go to the movies with our friend Marissa.
Yep.
Because then I just shake all that off. And the same thing happened like today, because I've done my 5 today and then I was driving here. So then I've forgotten about the 5.
Yep.
Whereas if I was at home, I'd probably be ruminating a little bit on it. And so that still happens a lot, but it's a real thing in ADHD. But even just for me, just saying, oh, it's just RSD. Like,
yep.
They like me, I was fine, whatever.
Yeah.
That really helps. But yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, I do worry about that. And also there's something too about when you have a business that is so based on your personality, like getting older is a part of that too, right? Because I do my photo shoots every year and I'm like, maybe I need to get that one photoshopped. But I'm like, no, you can't. That's just who I am. But there's still that thing of going, yeah. And like I've been different weights in my business, and, sometimes people will comment on and comment personal things because they think they know you and they think they can. And that can be tricky as well when you put yourself out there like that.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've been doing a lot of inner work the last couple of years, and especially the last 6 months. And that has been one of my biggest learnings, is around not seeking external validation and not needing external validation, and actually going, all I need is my internal validation, is to actually go, I'm good. I'm okay with myself. And that takes a lot of work to get to that space, that place. And some days that totally falls over. Absolutely. Especially when it's raining, your roof falls in. Like happened this week. Yeah. And it's you get a bit of the seasonal
affective disorder.
Yeah.
I had that in London.
So of course that's happened this week. And so I go, that can fall over, that whole going, it's okay, I don't need external validation. And it's not even just telling yourself that, it's actually feeling it. Feeling
True.
that.
That's
yeah.
hard.
So, but it's been really wonderful. I've been helped by a woman in Sydney, Nicola Unite, who I've been doing some breath work, soulful sessions with, and it's been a game changer for me.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, I realize actually too, I don't breathe very often. Like I don't breathe enough. So that sounds good.
Yeah. I've started a daily breathwork practice, breathwork meditation practice, and that has totally changed my life. So it's amazing. I've got a question for you. Last question.
Okay.
So I've been reading a lot about Carl Jung and his theories, and I'm absolutely totally vibing on Carl Jung right now.
Is that a uni thing that you're doing at uni?
No.
Okay.
Actually, just something popped up on YouTube and I watched it and went down a whole rabbit hole of Carl Jung.
Love it.
I love it, and I love his work. And so one of the things that he talks about is, the first part of your life that you live based on the expectations of what other people want you to be, or you believe that other people want you to be, or behave, or get careers, or whatever that is, that really you're trying to meet other people's expectations. And then the beauty of reaching midlife is that for many people, a shift starts to happen and your soul starts to call you
Oh,
So
juicy.
I know the first half of your life, it's what does the world expect of you? And you're trying to meet what the world expects of you. But then midlife and beyond, what's your soul calling for you to be? What's your soul calling for you to do?
Yeah, God, that's a big one. Well, actually, the first part of my life, I didn't have any expectations on me. I was very untethered and, we didn't have a very strong family connection. So I actually feel like that's what's happening at the moment of going, wow, I belong to a family. I'm a mother. Like it's just hitting me now, like 11 years later. I'm like, oh, wow, I actually can, like, I'm responsible for these people and how they're going to turn out. It's like, it never occurred to me before. So it's like that feeling of contentment and bringing that in. But again, I feel like I'm in the void space of that. A few people have asked me recently, what are your 5-year goals? And I was like, I actually don't have any right now. And that feels really good because I do know I'm in the in-between space of that next evolution. I don't know how long this void place is going to happen, but it feels good not pressuring myself to come up with what that is. And I think of Oprah saying to Maya Angelou of going, oh, this school in South Africa is going to be my legacy. And she was like, you have no idea what your legacy is going to be. Like, she's like, you're such a baby. You've got so many years to go. And I think she probably heard that when she was like, 50 or something, right? From her, from one of her elders. And I love the mystery of that and going, maybe it will still be in my current work and there'll be more books and stuff around money, or maybe it won't. Maybe it will be in the public eye. Maybe it won't. And I don't know, but I love that mystery of going, oh my God, you have no idea what that's going to be. And that's okay.
It is really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
And I often get surprised that I'm even here right now doing this, or that I started a charity, or I did any of that. It still really shocks me that any of that happened. And there's something wonderful about the mystery of that. I find that exciting to go, I have no idea what's going to unfold. And the last 10 years have been amazing. All these things happened. I never dreamed would happen. I can't wait. Not that I can't wait, because I don't want to wish those 10 years away, but who knows what's going to unfold in the next 10.
And not even like the best is yet to come, but like good things will continue to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like even just technology, we had no idea AI was going to be such a big thing in our lives and all of those things. And there's a lot of pessimism, and I sometimes do feel pessimistic about certain aspects of the world, but there is some really cool stuff to come for sure. And seeing, all those babies grow up and all my babies grow up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, thank you, dear friend, for coming on to Hey Soul Sista 2.0.
Yes, thank you for having me in your gorgeous new setup.
Yes.
I'll be back.
It's still a bit of a work in progress, but you know what? Tweak and course correct as you go.
Absolutely. And I'll be back. I'll come back at least once a year.
Thank you, Denise Duffield-Thomas.
Thank you.